How many times have you said, I'll start tomorrow? 100, 1,000? Tomorrow is the most seductive lie we tell ourselves. It's where dreams go to die, because tomorrow never comes. It's always today. And today you're not ready. You're waiting for the perfect moment, the perfect plan, the perfect version of yourself. But here's what nobody tells you. You don't change when you're ready. You change when you're desperate, when you're exhausted from your own excuses, when staying the same becomes more painful than the unknown. Your life isn't changing because you're still comfortable enough to wait. And waiting is just another word for giving up. Your life isn't changing because you're operating from a broken blueprint. One that tells you change comes from motivation, discipline, and trying harder. But that's a myth. Real change doesn't come from willpower. It comes from understanding the invisible forces keeping you stuck: your identity, your environment, your nervous system's addiction to familiarity. This video will show you why transformation isn't about becoming more disciplined. It's about becoming more aware. I'll give you the exact framework that makes change inevitable instead of impossible. Starting with one truth. You're not failing at change. You're succeeding at staying the same. And that's a choice you didn't know you were making. Let's make a different one. Imagine your life is a house with a thermostat. Right now, it's set to 68 degrees. That's your baseline, your default state of comfort, success, happiness, and worth. Everything in your life right now, whether you like it or not, reflects that setting. Your income, your relationships, your health, your confidence, all calibrated to 68 degrees. Now, let's say you get motivated. You watch a video like this one, you read a book, you have a breakthrough conversation with someone who inspires you. Suddenly, the temperature rises. You're at 75 degrees, maybe 80. You're taking action, feeling alive, making progress. You're waking up early, going to the gym, sending out resumes, having difficult conversations. Everything's different. You feel different. This is it, you think. This time it's real. This time I'm actually changing. But here's the problem, and this is where most people don't understand what's happening to them. The thermostat is still set to 68. So what happens? The system kicks in. Your environment, your relationships, your own thoughts. They all work together to bring you back to 68. Not because the universe is against you, not because you're cursed or broken or fundamentally flawed, but because that's what thermostats do. They maintain equilibrium, they resist change, they protect the setting. It's not personal, it's mechanical. This is why your life isn't changing. Every time you rise above your internal thermostat, your system pulls you back down. You self-sabotage the relationship when it gets too good, because you don't believe you deserve 80 degrees of love. Somewhere deep in your subconscious, a voice says, "This is too much. This isn't for people like me. I'm going to mess this up anyway, so let me mess it up on my terms before they figure out I'm not worthy." You procrastinate on the business idea when it starts working because 80 degrees of success feels dangerous. What if I actually make it and then lose it all? What if people expect more from me? What if I can't sustain this? You quit the diet, abandon the project, ghost the opportunity, all to return to familiar discomfort. Because at least familiar discomfort is predictable. At least you know how to survive at 68 degrees. Most people think the solution is more motivation, more willpower, more discipline. So they beat themselves up. They tell themselves they're lazy, they're weak, they lack follow-through. And they try again, pushing harder, white-knuckling their way through change. But that's like turning up the heat while the thermostat is still set to 68. You're fighting the system instead of reprogramming it. You're treating the symptom instead of addressing the cause. And you can push and push and push, but eventually the system will win, because your internal programming is always stronger than your temporary motivation. Real change doesn't happen when you push harder. It happens when you change the setting, when you upgrade your identity, your beliefs, your sense of what's normal for you. When 80 degrees becomes your new baseline, not a temporary spike. When success, love, health, peace, when those things stop feeling like exceptions and start feeling like expectations, that's when change sticks. That's when your life actually transforms. Here's what that looks like in real life. You meet someone who grew up in poverty and made millions. They don't feel rich, they feel anxious. They're constantly waiting for it to disappear. Why? Their thermostat is still set to survival. Their identity is still rooted in scarcity. The bank account changed, but the internal programming didn't. Or you meet someone who lost 100 pounds but gained it back within 2 years. Their thermostat is still set to the weight they've always known. The external changed, but the internal didn't. And the internal always wins. Always. You can force external change for a while, but if your identity hasn't shifted, if your thermostat hasn't been reprogrammed, you will return to baseline. It's not a character flaw. It's how the system works. So the question isn't, how do I change my life? The question is, what's my thermostat set to and am I willing to reprogram it? And that's a much scarier question because it requires you to admit that you've been complicit in your own stuckness. Not consciously, not maliciously, but complicit nonetheless. But why is the thermostat so hard to change? Why does our system fight us so hard? That's where this gets even deeper. And this is the part that's going to either free you or disturb you depending on how ready you are to see it. Here's something nobody talks about. You made a deal with yourself a long time ago. Maybe when you were 7, maybe 15, maybe last year. And that deal is running your life without your permission. Let me explain what I mean by this. When you experienced pain, rejection, failure, humiliation, loss, your brain made a decision. This happened because of X. Maybe X was, I'm not good enough. Maybe it was success is dangerous. Maybe it was people always leave. Maybe it was, if I'm visible, I'll be criticized. Whatever the story. Your brain locked it in as truth, not as an interpretation, not as one possible explanation, as capital T truth. And then it did something even more insidious. It created a strategy to avoid that pain ever again. That strategy became your invisible contract. And the contract says, if I stay small, I won't get hurt. If I don't try, I can't fail. If I don't let people in, they can't leave me. If I don't shine, I won't be attacked. It's a protection mechanism. Your brain thought it was keeping you safe, but it's also a prison. Because that contract that made sense when you were powerless, it's now the thing keeping you powerless. Your life isn't changing because you're still honoring that contract, unconsciously, automatically, religiously. Every time you get close to breaking through, the contract activates. Whoa, this is new territory. This is risky. Remember what happened last time you tried? Remember the pain? Let's go back to safe. And you do. Not because you're sabotaging yourself on purpose. Not because you secretly don't want success. But because you're obeying an agreement you made with fear when you didn't know any better. I see this everywhere. The person who won't apply for the dream job because they signed an invisible contract that says, I'm not qualified enough, and if I try and fail, it'll confirm what I've always feared, that I'm an imposter. The person who pushes away intimacy because their contract says vulnerability equals pain, and I've already been hurt enough for one lifetime. The person who starts businesses and quits them right before they take off because their contract says success makes you a target, and I'd rather be invisible than exposed. These aren't character flaws. These aren't signs that you're broken or damaged beyond repair. They're survival strategies that outlived their usefulness. They're old software running on new hardware. And until you identify the contract, bring it into the light, and consciously choose to renegotiate it, nothing changes. You just keep looping. Same patterns, same limits, same thermostat. Same invisible contract running the show while you wonder why you can't seem to move forward, no matter how hard you try. Here's the powerful part, and this is where hope enters the picture. The moment you see the contract, you can void it. The moment you bring the unconscious agreement into conscious awareness, you have a choice. You can say, that deal made sense when I was scared and powerless. But I'm not that person anymore. I have resources now. I have strength now. I have wisdom now. I'm renegotiating. And from that place, from conscious choice instead of unconscious obedience, everything shifts. Not overnight, not magically, but inevitably. So ask yourself right now, and I mean really ask yourself, what invisible contract am I honoring? What deal did I make with fear that's keeping me stuck? What agreement did I sign with pain that says, this is as good as it gets? And most importantly, am I ready to tear it up and write a new one? So, if we're trapped by thermostats and contracts we didn't know existed, how do we actually break free? Let me give you the lessons that'll change everything if you let them. First lesson, change isn't an event. It's an identity shift. You don't change by doing different things. You change by becoming a different person. The person who naturally wakes up early. The person who values their body. The person who keeps promises to themselves. The person who doesn't negotiate with their own standards. Stop trying to force behaviors. Start building identity. Ask yourself, Who do I need to become for this change to be inevitable? Not what do I need to do? Who do I need to be? Because the doing flows from the being, always. Second lesson, your environment is stronger than your willpower. You cannot heal in the same environment that made you sick. If your surroundings trigger the old you will keep becoming the old you. If the people around you reinforce your old identity, you will keep living into that identity. Change your inputs, change your circle, change your physical space. Environment isn't neutral. It's either supporting your evolution or sabotaging it. And there's no in between. Choose accordingly. Third lesson, discomfort is the price of admission, not a sign you're failing. Every change feels wrong at first. Your nervous system will scream danger when you step outside your thermostat setting. That discomfort isn't failure. It's proof you're doing it right. Your body is designed to protect you from change because change meant danger for most of human history. So when you feel uncomfortable, when you feel resistance, when every cell in your body is telling you to go back to what's familiar, that's not a sign you're on the wrong path. That's a sign you're on the exact right path. The question isn't how do I avoid discomfort? It's am I willing to be uncomfortable long enough for my nervous system to recalibrate and accept this new normal as the actual normal? Fourth lesson, you don't need permission. You need a decision. Stop waiting to feel ready. Stop waiting for a sign from the universe. Stop waiting for the perfect plan or the perfect moment. Those are just sophisticated forms of procrastination. Change happens the moment you decide it's non-negotiable. Not someday. Today. Right now. The decision creates the path, not the other way around. You don't find the path and then decide to walk it. You decide to walk, and the path reveals itself with every step. But how do we actually make this shift happen today? Let me give you the exact practices. First practice, name your thermostat setting. I want you to write this down right now. Right now, my life is set to blank degrees. Be brutally honest. What level of success, love, health, or happiness feels normal to you? Not what you want. Not what you wish for. What feels familiar? What feels like home? That's your current setting. And awareness is the first step to reprogramming. You can't change what you can't see. Second practice. Identify your invisible contract. Complete this sentence. I'm staying stuck because I believe if I change, then blank. What's the fear? What's the story? What pain are you avoiding? What disaster are you protecting yourself from? Once you see the contract, you can challenge it. Ask, is this still true? Do I still need this protection? And more importantly, what's the cost of staying in this contract? Third practice, the 72-hour reset protocol. Here's something most people don't know. Neuroscientists discovered that your brain resets your motivation every 72 hours. That fire you feel right now while you're watching this? It's chemically designed to fade within 3 days. So if you're relying on motivation to change your life, you're doomed from the start. Since motivation dies in 3 days, build a system that doesn't rely on it. Create a non-negotiable daily practice so small it can't fail. 5 minutes, one action. Something that keeps the momentum alive past the 72-hour reset. Consistency beats intensity. Always. Because intensity is an event. Consistency is an identity. Fourth practice. Change one input today. Don't overhaul your entire life. That's overwhelming and your system will resist. Change one environmental input right now. Unfollow the accounts that drain you. Text the person who lifts you up. Move the junk food out of sight. Delete the app that steals your time. One input. Today. That's how you start reprogramming the system. One micro decision at a time that signals to your brain, we're becoming someone new. We're not the person who tolerates this anymore. We're the person who chooses differently. So here's where we land, and I need you to feel the weight of this, because this is the truth that'll either liberate you or disturb you depending on how ready you are. Your life isn't changing because you've been asking the wrong question. You've been asking, what do I need to do, when the real question is, who do I need to become? You've been trying to change your actions when you need to change your thermostat. You've been fighting symptoms when you need to rewrite the contract. And you've been waiting for tomorrow when the only moment that exists is right now. And here's the mantra I want you to carry forward from this moment. I want you to say this out loud with me. I am not stuck. I am simply becoming. Say it again. I am not stuck. I am simply becoming. Because every moment you stay aware, every time you choose differently, every small decision that defies the old programming, that's you reprogramming the thermostat. That's you tearing up the contract. That's you stepping into the identity of the person who doesn't just want change, but lives it, who doesn't just dream about a different life, but builds it one decision at a time. This isn't about perfection. This is about awareness. It's about catching yourself in the loop and choosing to step off. It's about honoring the discomfort as proof that you're expanding beyond your old limits. It's about understanding that your resistance isn't your enemy, it's information. And when you learn to work with your system instead of against it, change becomes inevitable instead of impossible. The version of you that stays stuck, that's not weak, that's just scared. And you can thank that version for trying to keep you safe all these years. You can honor the contracts you made when you didn't know better, and then you can release them. Because you don't need that protection anymore. You're ready for 80 degrees. You're ready to become. You're ready to stop waiting for tomorrow and start living today. If this resonated, if something inside you just clicked into place, if you feel that shift happening right now, do me a favor. Hit that like button. Drop a comment telling me what your thermostat is set to right now and what you're committing to changing today, and subscribe to this channel because we're reprogramming together. We're becoming together. We're refusing to wait for tomorrow together. Your life is about to change, not someday, today, right now, because you just made a decision, and decisions change everything.